and have a chance to communicate and see and make the face, attach the face to the name. But we really want your presence here and your input, because our organization, as you know, is fully voluntarily run, and so it's basically you that make this organization great, so we need your input and your engagement. We are rearranging a bit the agenda because we will do slightly different for the committee breakout session, because there are only 2 committees that really want to do that. So we'll have it right here in the room. That will give us more space for each committee to come here and tell what is it that they do, for specifically for the new members, and to tell you who the officers are and what the plans for the next year, and what how they want you to get engaged, or how you can get engaged, who to contact and or whatnot. So Hannah is just working on that right now, and then we'll shortly start. But because the agenda said that I would do the agenda review, welcome and agenda review, and then reflection on the last year, and then after that introduce the new leadership, and then pass it on to the new leader, Hannah. And so, are you done? Okay. Yep. So just present. Okay, are we there? We should be. I don't know if we have, okay, great, we are there. How do I know if we have somebody on the Zoom? I know we got from Amanda the email to have a Zoom connection, so hopefully it works. And we didn't mess up anything. So just what I've been telling you about, what the agenda is going to look like. And because a past president in our organization is charged with assembling the ad hoc committee to do the review of our strategic plan and see how we are progressing with meeting our goals, we will give Dave Buick a chance to show you and tell you how that review went and where we are with achieving our goals first. And then we'll do the introduction of the committees, standing committees that is, and their reports and everything. So slightly shuffling around, but it's gonna, all the information we promised you will be there. Okay. Okay, and then will be the breakout, and it's not going to be a breakout rooms. This is a big enough room. We can just join on one side and the other side with the advocacy committee and the education committee, because they really want face-to-face engagement with the members to tell you how great it is to be part of each of these or others committees as well, and how you can actually get involved and get benefit for the society, but for yourself as well. Okay, so before I go over the next parts of the agenda, I just wanted you to have here on the slide the present committee. So when I talk about the past year and what we've done, you know who the people were on the helm of the organization, but behind few of us here on the slide is an army of you that helped all of the achievements that you'll hear later on happen. So, first of all, what a great meeting. We've had an excellent time. Yesterday, a bit hot, but we can take it. So thank you, Iowa, for the great weather. And great organization, and I cannot say enough for the meeting organizers, especially after 2 years of virtual meetings, where we kind of forgot how much it takes to organize in-person meeting and heard so many attendees. It's an excellent turnout. There's like 375, if I'm not wrong, registrants that organizers had to even decline late registrants because of the COVID issues and planning things, because there were people that wanted to get in, and that's a great sign. That's a great compliment to all we do and you do for the society. So I just want to compliment everybody, from the people that greet us at the hotel, buses, to the people that we meet every day or send 10 emails a day asking something, because it is not an easy task, and everything to run this smoothly is a great accomplishment. I know there are issues, there's always an issue with a live in-person meeting, but we will have a survey after the meeting for you to give us your thoughts and ideas how we can improve it. So please look out for that survey link, an email message that will come from me, I think, isn't it? The past president? So we can actually improve the meeting next year, which is coincidentally on my back. So, our organization thrived. You heard me speak the first day that we surpassed the 600 members. That's a huge achievement. I'm not sure how well you remember the strategic plan review from last year, but our 5-year goal to 23 was to go over 500 members, and to 25 to actually go over 650. And we are already met our goal in this 5-year plan, and are very close to meet the overall goal that we had. This is one thing, is to get people to engage and get to the meeting. We want to keep you. So we want to show you the great things that our committees are doing. Hannah will later go over the list of the committees that we have, so I won't waste time on that. But you should get engaged. We have great things going throughout the year. Our educational committee and communications committee are organizing webinars and listening and discussion sessions, and all of the topics are based on your input and what you want to hear or learn, or who you want to hear speak. We also have a great and active LinkedIn and Twitter pages, so thank you for all that posts and advertise for the planned breeding. Our advocacy committee, which you'll hear later more, and please stay and be part of the separate session, breakout session, is an excellent way to try to enforce the importance of planned breeding to our legislature, to go physically to Washington, D.C. in combination with the Tri-Society, with ASTA, to try to show the legislatures that there is a young force behind all of us with gray hair that cares about the country, the well-being, human well-being, and sustainability of agriculture, and that one of the biggest ways you can actually ensure that is through the planned breeding. And I think this past and present and future that we've seen through these presentations positioned us to support that ideas if we need. All the support and applications and everything are available, and this is a downside, on the website, but we are working actively on the new website, and that was a task that I took on, and I'm sorry that I could not complete it by this meeting, but very soon we will have the test page. I would want to call you if you're interested to be part of it and give your ideas, what you don't like on the existing website and how you want to look it, to tell me, and you know my email, and just reach out to me. We'll organize an ad hoc working group that will work directly with the website designers to make it the way we want it. We want it to be engaging, fun, energetic, young, as our society is. So, going back to our executive committee, I want to say a huge, big thank you to Dave Bubeck, our past president, and soon being officially off the executive committee. We are not letting him go that easily, for all the guidance he provided to me. So if you are not aware, we have like 4-year commitment in our executive committee. So once you become a secretary, then next year you progress to the vice president, president, and then you stay in the role of past president to help younger members of the executive committee to make transition smoother. That was huge, especially because of 2 years of virtual meetings, and that was unfortunate that Dave had to spend both of his year through the virtual period and pandemic, but at least now we had a chance to interact with him in person, which is, I think, a great positive for all of our members. There is also the standing committee members is our treasurer, Don Jones, who sends his regards, and he's sorry that he could not be here. I've seen him Friday before I came here. He looks okay. He's dealing with some health issues, but he was sad that this is the first NAPB meeting that he's actually missing. And we have a new web editor, Dian, who just recently joined. Out of these two positions, the top row are the people that are rotating annually. So after this meeting, this is how the next executive committee is going to look like. I'm rolling into the past president role. We have Hannah Senior, that was a vice president, into the president role. Tomas, which is local organizer as well, into the vice president, and we have a new secretary. And so, yay, unfortunately, again, we should have had this announcement when JD was here, but he had to leave. We are breeders, you all understand. This is, none of the season is perfect for everybody. We all have some duties we had to attain, and so he had to leave. But he also sends a thank you to all of you that voted for him, and he's excited to become an active member of executive committee and to help us grow further. So after yesterday's great session on diversity and inclusion and all of the things when we were talking about what that means and how we make that integrative part of our society, I looked around the room and I said, okay, but we are kind of diverse. On any level, you know, if you want to gender, and when I look at our society, I look at the diversity of crops and I think, I'm in minority. We need to increase the specialty crops. So we always have a different view of the diversity inclusion, but that session was great, and we'll make sure we continue it into the at least next meeting that I'm in charge of. So I made a little map to show you where your executive committee is coming from. So we have a custom of having a dinner just to meet and talk in a leisure environment. And so this is the dinner that we had on Tuesday evening. And around that table, you have 6 countries, people that originate from 6 countries, 4 continents, and that's your executive committee. So with that, thank you very much for your trust in me. I hope I met most of the goals, and I promise I will make that website the best ever. And now I give you your next president, Hannah Senior. Thank you.
Okay. So we've had a slight rejig in the agenda. So forgive me if sometimes the next little bit isn't quite as smooth as we would have liked. But what I'm going to do just first is to put things in context for you. I'm stepping into this role with some big shoes to fill. We had Ksenia and Dave, and before that, some other equally illustrious NAPB presidents. And through their work and the work of all the volunteers that make up NAPB, we have grown enormously. So we have a 5-year plan that we work to. We're in the 4th year of our current 5-year plan, and I'll come to that in a minute. But at the start of that time period, we had 365 members, and we've nearly doubled that, despite COVID, despite not being able to do in-person meetings in the last 4 years, which I think is quite an achievement for an all-volunteer organisation. So there is this sense that NAPB is growing up as an organisation. And that's something we should really celebrate. Now, as you can tell from my accent and from Ksenia's introduction, I'm from the UK, and I flew over and watched a film on the way. It was a very British film. There were no explosions and very little glamour in it. But it was about a man who, in the 1960s, 50s, stole a very famous portrait. And he did it for, it's called The Duke, if you want to watch it. He did it for the greater good. And he ended up going to trial, and it's a true story. And when he was on trial for the theft, he was making this point, and when I was listening to it, I thought, oh, that's really quite pertinent. He said, "On my own, I am a single brick, a bit useless. But if you put a load of bricks together, you get a building. And if you have a building, then you create a shadow. And already you're starting to change the world." And the reason I thought that was really good is because NAPB is a volunteer organisation. Everybody that contributes is a brick, is a piece in the overall. But where we're getting to now is that we've kind of got that foundation in place. And to move forward to make our building, to achieve our overall goals, we need to have a bit of a change of gears, if you like. So I think that's going to be what's going to happen over the next year as we start to move from being lots of bricks that are doing great work into something that really is taking shape as the organisation that we envisage it to be for the future. So this is a good moment to recap on our vision and our mission as an organisation. The National Association of Plant Breeders strengthens plant breeding to promote food security, quality of life, and a sustainable future. There has never been a time in our working lives, or indeed probably before that, when this mission has been more pressing. With climate change, the rising input costs for agriculture, the global food supply chain challenges associated with conflict in Ukraine, there are really major issues that we can contribute to in the world. And so that mission then translates into a vision of what do we want to achieve as an organisation. Now, I'm not going to read through it all. It's there, it's on our website. But you can see that we have stated goals for what we want to achieve as an organisation. And then, as I mentioned previously, that translates into 5-year chunks of time, what we're going to do to progress towards that vision in smaller steps. Now, I'm sharing this because what I'd like to do over the next year is to sort of help shape the activities of all the committees so we're still harnessing the energies and the magic that comes from having all the volunteers, and help to move that towards accomplishing our vision and accomplishing the goals that we set ourselves for this 5-year time period. So these are the goals that we set ourselves. The grand objective being to develop NAPB as a world-class, self-sustaining, member-serving and public-serving scientific organisation. I think we're well on the way to that, and the fact that we've had so much energy in the last few days around the work that we're doing is testament to it. But what I think we would like to do is to move that further on so that when we hand over from one president to the next, one committee chair to the next, it's easier to pick that up and build on what the previous people have been doing. It's really clear what each individual contribution does towards building towards the whole. And that's one of the things that we're going to work on in the next year. I'd also like to, as an organisation, start to put the work that we do in the bigger context. So connecting with other plant breeding organisations around the world. How could that lend richness to the work that we're doing and help to put the work of plant breeders in a global context? And finally, I'd really like to work on raising the profile of plant breeding within the scientific community, within the agricultural community, and more generally with the public. It's something that's really important as part of what we see our organisation being for, and it's one of those tasks that is endlessly challenging. There is so much to do there. So getting our teeth into that is something that is a real goal for the next few years. So, having set out in high level how the individual pieces can help to contribute towards the overall, I mentioned we've had a bit of a rejig of the agenda. What I'm going to do now is to ask the committee chairs, either the ones who are handing on or the incoming, it depends on the committee, to just come up and explain a little bit about their committee, what they do, what kind of activities they're involved in, because this is a great time of year for people who are interested in volunteering. And by the way, there is no better way of leveraging NAPB to build your network and build your capabilities than getting involved in a committee. So, by getting the committees up here to explain what they're doing, you could start to think about where could you contribute your energies or your knowledge in order to progress the organisation as a whole. So, I don't know exactly how many of the committee members are here right now.
So if we want to do the advocacy, they have a slide.
Should we start with advocacy then?
Yeah.
After this, 2 of the committees are going to have a breakout. The other committees are not. So advocacy and education are going to have a breakout. So maybe we'll get those 2 up first, then we'll run through some of the other committees, and then we'll do the breakout at the end.
This is not working. What's this? Yeah, let's. I think if I connect it there. Okay, it's there. I'm sorry, apologies. Why doesn't it show it? Okay, I apologize. For some reason, it's not working. I don't. So maybe.
I tell you what, why don't we switch around? Dave, could you do the bylaws? Do you need any slides for that? While we get the slide set up, could you do the bit about the bylaws?
Yeah.
We'll just change the agenda.
Because this is too thick and then cannot do next to this.
Do both? Is it one of these? Okay, I can stop whenever they're ready, but maybe just
This is his.
a few opening comments on strategic planning in general. For those of you a little newer to the organization, not to have any illusions about how long we've been doing this, but the year I was secretary, so 4 years ago, or at the beginning of the 4 years ago, we had a discussion about, so every great organization needs to have a strategic plan. But just having one certainly isn't enough. You need to be able to execute. A strategic plan is virtually worthless if you don't execute on your strategic plan. So we had a discussion among the executive committee when I was just joining and as secretary and taking notes, and that was one of your jobs, obvious jobs as secretary. And we had a discussion about, well, how do we actually do the? Do you want to go back? You're ready now?
Keep going. I'm just going to take this off. We'll go back to that in a minute, just so it's not distracting.
Oh, okay. So we had a discussion about, well, because of the execution on a strategic plan, we should be reviewing our strategic plan annually. So we had a discussion about, should the secretary do that? And of course, I voted nay against that one. And here I am today, 4 years later. But it makes a lot of sense. We assigned it actually 4 years ago as a job of the past president, the one that should be very familiar with the organization by then, and be able to conduct a review on the 5-year plan. So what we did, and Ksenia sent it out with today's agenda. So actually, all the membership should have the 16-page document on the strategic plan review. So we assembled a team of, I think it was 11 people on the strategic plan. Some of them are in the room. Deb Menikos, Valeria. I'm not going to read last names. Don Cummings, well, I guess I will. Todd Campbell, Peggy Ozias Akins, Chandler Levinson, JD Rousseau, Rich Pratt, Zach Jones, Gianni, Dong, Neha Kathari, and myself. And just so you know, if you ever get assigned to this thing or get roped into it in the future, it's not that bad of a lift. So we went across the 6 objectives, and there's, you know, sub-objectives under those 6 strategic plan points. And then we assigned those out to somewhere between about 3 people on average for each of the 6 objectives. So we divided and conquered, and I think we ended up having 5 one-hour meetings to pull it together. We did not use the meeting time as wordsmithing. We used it as discussing, okay, what do we got left to do, and how do we pull this together? What pieces of information might you still be missing? And so we got pretty organized, so we pulled it off, and we ended up with this 16-page document that you've got. And so there's a 2-page executive summary, and then the rest of the document. The other thing I would add is we realized that we're actually, I just realized this week, we're kind of on the same 5-year plan as the U.S. government with the Farm Bill. So we're renewing our strategic plan the same time that the U.S. is renewing their Farm Bill. I don't know, that's totally coincidence and probably quite irrelevant, but maybe not entirely irrelevant. And I think, so one of the things we agreed to as an ad hoc committee at the very beginning is that we would start building ideas and concepts so that when Senia assembles her team, we can at least have some ideas out there to, clearly some of the 6 objectives will remain in the new strategic plan. They're kind of core and pretty macro looking in their state, but some ideas underneath those to kind of embellish, and some ideas that may actually create totally new objectives as well, I think. So we also built that into our document. So anyway, that's out there for your consumption. If you can always add more thoughts and ideas. If you have ideas to how we should build the next strategic plan, there's certainly plenty of open air time to do that. And then the last thing I want to mention is the bylaws. So it just happened one day. I was looking up our bylaws to actually look up something officially. How are we supposed to be doing this? What is it in our bylaws? And I looked back at the bylaws, and they were really written in the context of forming the NAPB. And first of all, no criticism to anybody that helped form those. They were quite well done, actually, and very legally upstanding, and they seemed very comprehensive, but they're totally out of date. And so we're a much different organization today than when we started, and a much larger organization, of course. But as we've evolved from year to year on how we do things, even like the strategic plan review, there were a lot of gaps and things that were even to the point of not being correct in the bylaws. So I took a stab at revising those. We're not ready to approve those today. They still need a legal review, but we're getting closer. We got those in front of the ad hoc committee, but it was really the only lift. It was a heavy enough lift just to get the strategic plan review done. So we completed that. It's in a finished state. I think we have a few little cleanup edits to do, but otherwise it's essentially done. The bylaws need a little bit more work, and then they also need to go through a legal review. So the executive committee is going to need to figure out, who do we employ from the legal community, because they need an official legal review before we stamp them revised and approved and so on and official. So several of you, back on the strategic plan review, several of you are in the room that were on the ad hoc committee. Did I miss anything? Or the executive committee, you guys have seen it. Anybody want to make comments? Open it up to the floor. Everybody thought it was a relatively smooth process, I think, and all right.
Maybe you're going to say this, Dave, but we need to correct the new plan in the next year. That's the future side.
Yep. Oh, and yeah, so Don said we need to write the new plan, and so there are some, but I would not call it comprehensive. There are some ideas that are 5-year forward looking, But they're, you know, they're just concepts and ideas, and the new ad hoc committee will have to decide as they build that next strategic plan what that looks like. So if you have ideas to contribute to that, or I would say if you want to be on Ksenia's ad hoc committee next year, you know, talk to her and let her know that you're interested in helping in that way. It's another, there's so many ways to contribute to the organization, and that is one rather short term, kind of a heavy lift, but a fairly short term assignment that one has to do. And if you've been around for a bit and know how this organization works, then easily you can contribute to that. I guess one other thing we did on the ratings of the individual objectives, we said we had three categories. Either they were partially accomplished, they were fully accomplished, or they were not accomplished at all. And so most of the things is, you know, kind of scoring, you know, hybrids or varieties 1 to 9, as breeders put it. We only ended up with 3 buckets. So, but there were a lot of partially accomplished. So just like those 2 corn breeders up there laughing at me, you know, that everything's a 5, right? Or everything's a 4 to a 6. So a lot of things partially accomplished. I would say, as a volunteer organization, there weren't a lot of things that were an absolute slam dunk, you know, completed, finished, don't have to pick it up again. So a lot of those things are kind of ongoing and partially accomplished. So I think with that, go ahead and move on to the next. So, and really special thanks to everybody that helped contribute to that ad hoc committee, because it was a lot of work for a short time.
Okay, so we're going to go with the meet the committees, and advocacy. Robin's going to describe what's been going on in advocacy first, and then we'll do education second, and then I'll try and see who's in the room to who gets called up to the next one. Right, over to you, Robin.
Okay, and you've got a slide for me there?
Working on it.
I saw it up there.
There we go.
There, yeah. Okay, well, your leadership. I did not come up through the ranks. It was a COVID thing. And NAPB desperately needed a chair for the advocacy committee, and you got me. And I hope I was a little more than a placeholder. But Bridget and Yvonne couldn't be here. Bill Tracy is. Secretary, breakout. I'll warn you. We might put a finger on you and declare you secretary for next year. We really do need someone to step in. Most of what I have up here, and it's not a lot of items, have been reported on in the newsletters. Really, previous year, the USDA Climate Smart Farming and Forestry Action Plan that came out from USDA. We responded to that request for information, and maybe part of the reason I got this job was I had been attending advocacy committee meetings, and not a lot was happening with that, and I said, come on people, we got to do this. So maybe I was a Kickstarter. I know I wrote the first dozen or 2 sentences. Bill Tracy chipped in, and then I don't know who all added all that wonderful stuff, but you belong to a great organization. Dave Bubeck's name did go on as president, and I would guess some of those good words in there were his. And by the way, plagiarize this thing. We're hoping that there will be some programs, research and otherwise, that require some plant breeding to deal with climate change and adaptation and mitigation. And when I say mitigation, I generally mean in the strong sense, bringing net carbon emissions from agriculture down to 0 or less. And we can do that. Ksenia mentioned sending students to Congressional Visits Day. Well, sadly, we did have students participate, but with that Omicron outbreak, all of the they did not have the real good experience they would have had, I think, with partnering with ASA and Julie McClure in Washington. I suppose we saved some money since it was on Zoom, but we'd have found some money to send to chip in to support those students. What else do I have up here? Oh, I was involved in a meeting preparing for a meeting with EPA regarding plant incorporated protectants. And maybe Dave could say a little more about it if you like. My old laptop thinks that Microsoft Teams is malware, and I panicked, and I could have gotten on the phone, couldn't I? And I was going to say a little bit about who NAPB was. I think the messages were just kind of interested in what they're up to, if they had a timeline, and maybe the most important thing was, was telling them that USDA has people involved in these areas, and if we made any suggestions, it was suggest that they talk to each other and to keep us in the loop. Have I covered? Yeah, okay. And then USDA, National Agricultural Research, Extension, Education, and Economics Advisory Board and its committees need more NAPB representation. Well, I'm adding in the NAPB, but and I had some words regarding all of that in a recent newsletter. They had these are people that advise the Secretary of Agriculture on what USDA should be doing, I guess. And they mentioned 4 different areas, plant and animal breeding being 2. Or genetics is probably the word they used, but the other 2 involved plants. One was citrus and citrus diseases, and hey, we've got that, and I forget the other, but I think they accept nominations through September, something like that. Most people are probably going to nominate themselves, but NAPB would, well, at least put together a CV and so on, and they say they welcome self-nominations, but we would love to add our imprimatur. I don't know who we have that would be interested in applying that wouldn't be qualified. We need a voice there. The Farm Bill. I guess traditionally, and we're going to be ahead of the Farm Bill, Dave, on this 5-year plan, the way things look. The Farmer Rancher magazines, websites, I have family farming and ranching in Wisconsin, Wyoming. I kind of keep up with things. And some of those better publications do have correspondence or bureaus in Washington. And I guess traditionally the Farm Bill is something that gets passed as a continuing resolution and then new titles get added in. And there may be some work on new titles, but I think there's a consensus among observers that really not much is going to happen of any real significance until after this November election and we see who the new Congress is. And let's see, USDA Competition and Intellectual Property System. About a year ago, the president put out an executive order regarding competitiveness in the American economy and directed all of the cabinet departments to come up with a report based on what's happening in the areas that they cover. USDA highlighted competition and intellectual property system seeds and other inputs. Julie Dawson is here. Are you here, Julie? Yeah, she's back there. So Monday morning, some folks in Washington with USDA joined us, and Julie is working with them. She's been a US NAPB member for ever since she became a plant breeder, I would presume. I think she told me her title, if she has one, is writer, and bringing some science to what the USDA is going to report to the president. Regarding the patent, PVP, intellectual property, regarding those sorts of items, I don't know if the president has authority to change patent law by fiat, for example, and I'm not really sure exactly what's happening there. But Julie's going to has 3 questions that she'd like to input on, and she's going to take as much time as we'll give her, I guess, in the breakout session. So join us at breakout, and maybe I've made enough noise up here for now. Thank you.
I don't have a slide, do I? Did Amanda?
Just leave it there. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Apparently I don't have a slide. Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Falk, and I am filling in for Amanda Hulse-Kemp today, standing up here on behalf of the NAPB Education Committee. And we had another busy year with the Education Committee, and I do have some notes that I've written down from our annual report. Our leadership team comprises of Amanda Hulse-Kemp, who is the chair, myself, who is the co-chair, Valerio Hoyos Villegas is the secretary, and Neha Kathari is the past chair. So we meet monthly on the first Tuesday of every month, and we've been doing that for a number of years now, and we usually have a pretty good turnout, which has been waning, I think, in the last few months, just because everyone's got Zoom fatigue, and as the COVID pandemic has kind of waned on, so as has our attendance. So early plug for our breakout session, please, if you're interested in education, reaching out to both the public as well as the NAP members, helping to educate and communicate, please come to our breakout session, because we are looking for a secretary to backfill as Amanda moves into the past chair role and I move into the chair role moving forward. One thing that we do in the Education Committee is we put on a lot of webinars, and this has kind of been, since Zoom has become the way of the world through the pandemic. So I think in previous years we've done up to 8 webinars. A couple of years we did 8 webinars, and we focused a lot the intro to R for breeders, because that was the content that breeders wanted to see. And then every time we finished that webinar, I put it up on our YouTube, the NAPB YouTube channel, so that grad students, and I know because it wasn't that long ago that I was a grad student here at Iowa State, are always looking for those types of materials. Seminars that professors or postdocs have done based on their research or their findings or their algorithm that they created that is readily searchable on YouTube. YouTube helped me write my doctoral thesis, and I believe a lot of us newer grads can all say that. So part of the Education Committee is what we do is we generate that content so that grad students and the ones that are here in the room, ones that have come up to me, I had 6 people come up to me and said, yeah, thank you for putting this stuff on YouTube, because I used it in my research or and when I was going through classes. So that's part of what we do. The seminars that we did this year earlier on was more computational, I think, in the fall. So we did a couple of seminars in the fall. Valerio held one, and Jolfi did another one with QGene. And then in the spring, it's been more with intellectual property. So Klaus Kohler and others led one earlier in the spring, and then Eloy Corona from SIPA did one, I think, as late as June. I think we held that one. So whenever those are done, we put them up on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, by all means go and search on the NAPB YouTube channel, which I believe is up to around 6,000 subscribers. So yeah, that's really grown over the past months. Whenever the graduate student working group or the early career working group has a webinar, they throw it at us at the education committee, and I'm able to then make a thumbnail for the YouTube channel and put it up onto YouTube and get that content out there so other plant breeders around the globe can search it. One other thing that we do as a committee is we help facilitate the poster competition. This year, I believe we clocked in at around 163 is where I saw the number at. It may have came down. I don't think all the posters were actually up there. They didn't all make it here. But I believe when I looked at a registration it was at 163 posters. So pretty impressive. And so we tap a lot of people, or we ask people when they register, would you like to be a judge? And so we facilitate the judging as well and the scoring. So last night after the diversity dinner, I had a Zoom meeting with Amanda, and we went through this great marking rubric that Neha had put together previously with all of these scores. So thank you very much for the judges. We understand it's a very heavy lift. Thank you very much for the students. You made videos this year. All students made videos and were standing at their posters to give their speech and answer any questions. So we've seen this poster competition grow now to what it is, and we hope to keep seeing it grow, because I got some video footage there this yesterday or Tuesday, I guess, and it was just a buzz. I don't know if you guys, everyone is out there. It was crazy, and I love to see it. Bustling, young people networking with veterans of the industry, showing off their research and seeing what's all being done out in the world that we all love. Just checking my phone to see if there's anything else that I had written down. But that basically sums it up. Another thing that we tried to do this year is create a little bit more video content for LinkedIn and advertise for the NAPB for this meeting, as well as the NAPB in general, just get our word out there. So I often reach out, or one of us on the education committee do reach out to you to ask you for your questions, what you want to see, or for your creative abilities, for you to record yourself and answering some questions. So you may have seen one of the videos that we put out is Breeding an Art or a Science, and that got, I think it's up to nearly 5,000 views on LinkedIn. So people are interested in hearing what we have to say and talking to the plant breeding community at large. So if you see other emails or requests for stuff like that coming from me, or if I tap you on the shoulder later today and say, hey, you want to go outside and answer some cool questions and about what is plant breeding, and you know, when you're going through the grocery store and a family member asks you about something, you know, how do you respond to them or something like that. So I feel, we feel as the education committee, our mandate is not only to help educate the NAPB members, but also to turn around and not look at the choir, but look at the congregation and start to educate the general public out there as well. So again, back to advertising, to the breakout, please come join us. We love to have more voices as part of the education committee. We do it every month, the first Tuesday at about 9 or 10 a.m., depending on your time zone. And it's great to see, you know, 10, 15, 20 people join in and to hear your voice, and you can help drive this committee forward. So that's about all I have. Thank you for your time.
Here's the list of the committees, so at least I remember we had the slides.
Some visual aid. All right. Always adjust for the shorties.
Yes.
Well, hello everyone. My name's Jenny Do. I'm here representing membership committee. Starting this year, I'll be the chair, and we have a full staff right now, and we have Louis Mass as the vice chair. We have Katie, Martin, Rainey as the secretary. We have Emre as a past chair. We have Don Cummings here as always supporting us as a member.
and Zhenglu Li and Brian, they are all supporting the membership committee. I'm sure you all heard the good numbers that starting this year, we have passed 600 members. Majority of them are professional, and about one third of them are coming from the academia students. But we're not going to stop here. We're trying to see if there is any way we could reach out or bring back the 823 past members. I'm sure more people are joining the plant breeding community. That's our mission, to advocate NAPB and reach out to them to see if they can be brought into this community. We're trying to see if there's any way that we can retain those members that we got from starting from May to now. We have additional 100 members, so we're trying to figure out why all of a sudden they're interested in NAPB, and if that's for a good reason, maybe we can continue doing that to make sure that they can continue to come back later. And we definitely want to continue to improve our engagement on social media. I don't know many of you, but I definitely live on social media. That's how I connect, that's how I learn, that's how I build and grow. I'm sure I'm not alone. And especially with this pandemic, with people are more comfortable with hybrid working, you probably don't see your colleagues every day, but you probably will interact with them more on social media. So that's probably one of the approach. I was hoping that we could have more interaction, more collaboration with other community to see where we can support and how we can engage and expand. So I just want to highlight quickly a couple of benefits. A lot of people probably don't know by joining the member. It's your mission to spread the word to your friends, for your colleague, and your community is that not only we give you the discount to the membership, to the annual meeting, but we also foster the cross-discipline collaboration. We have great diversity of the crops we're working on. I'm so excited from the vegetable breeding perspective. We see more of the more special crops are included in the topics, and definitely have opportunity to expand those connections in variety of the crops and having a better advocacy on the plant breeding connection. And we want to see that more talks and more common ground can be found between the private and public sectors. And it's a great opportunity to find a mentee, find a mentor, and get opportunity to establish a leadership skill sets within an NAPB events. Of course, there's newsletter to keep people updated on the new contributions and making sure you're inspired from the plant breeding community. And of course, there's awards program and speaking opportunities. Now we're moving towards offline due to the wrapping up of the post-pandemic. So there will be more opportunity to have the 3D presentation from our community, and also the access to the NAPB membership directory. This is something that we probably should promote more starting this year. I know a lot of us coming from relatively larger organization, before coming to an NAPB annual meeting, we didn't know each other also involved in NAPB. So with a directory, probably will be easier for us to continue to networking and maybe strategize how we want to approach students, how we want to approach with the other private or in public industry for collaboration. And I just emphasize it again, there's a discount and on the annual meeting if you're a member. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
So I apologize for the miscommunication with the Education Committee meeting. The announcing the poster winners will be in the banquet. So, suspension. So, now Communications Committee, is anybody here?
We've got a slightly different order because not everybody's here, so John's going to do commercial.
Okay, good.
Howdy everybody, I'm John Gill, I'm a corn breeder with AgReliant Genetics. Be the new chair of the Commercial Plant Breeders Committee. Rick Harrison is our past chair from Driscoll's, and then Liana Nice from Nature Source Improved Plants will be our vice chair, and Chibwe Chungu from BASF will be our incoming secretary. So our committee is comprised of commercial plant breeders and representatives from private companies. And we have 7, 8, 9 members right now. We're always looking for more companies to be involved. We're represented by Corteva and Bayer, Driscoll's, Syngenta, and we're always looking to broaden our horizon, maybe get some more specialty crops involved, not be so heavy on corn and beans, but I'm biased because I'm in corn. So some of the initiatives over the past year, we decided that we could leverage some of the other NAPB committees and work together with them to on topics that were of interest to both of us. And so we worked with the Education Committee to hold a webinar on IP issues in plant breeding, and they facilitated that for us, and we provided some of the speakers. We collaborated with the Graduate Student Working Group, again, on a webinar, and the title of that was The Way to My First Job. So we had our industry speakers talk about, what it takes to effectively interview and negotiate and everything involved with that really scary process of getting your first job. And then we worked with the Communications Committee a little bit as well in trying to get a blurb every quarter in the NAPB newsletter about things that our committee was doing. And then on the topic of sustainability, we had our session today here at the annual meeting, and I think that went pretty well. And with the 4 speakers, another main topic for us is plant breeders of the future. So that's been something that the executive committee's been interested in for a few years. And so we've held soft skills workshops. And so Rick, Klaus Kohler, and Chibway, they traveled to Texas A&M and did a workshop there in person with the students. We've got one upcoming here at Iowa State in a couple months, and then there's plans to do one also at the University of Minnesota at some point. Okay, so our next initiatives that we're planning on doing for the coming year is continuing that plant breeder of the future topic. And so a few years ago, the executive committee had mentioned doing a white paper on plant breeder of the future, and we've kind of kept it in mind, but haven't taken that first step in working on it yet. And so we need to, I guess, talk with the executive committee and determine what all needs to be in there and gauge how much interest there is. Planning on holding a webinar on topic of plant breeder of the future, although that's a pretty broad topic, so it may be multiple webinars. That'll be yet to be determined. And the new one that came up because of the pandemic is, how our working scenarios have changed. So quite a few of the members of our committee work 100% or mostly from home now. And just, maybe have them talk about their experience and how they're able to run a breeding program from home, interacting with their team. And since that appears to be how the future is gonna be, for new grad students that are looking at a job, so they can be prepared for that scenario. Another topic we're looking at is global and international breeding and how it impacts us here in the U.S. So from a private company standpoint, we want to create new technology and new germplasm with the idea it can go throughout the world, more profitable that way and whatnot. But how does the policy landscape around gene editing and GMOs in Europe and the rest of the world affect what we do here, and possibly get a couple speakers on that. Okay, the upcoming workshops, and then we want to maintain connections with the other NAPB committees moving forward. I feel like that was pretty successful, those collaborations. So that's all I've got. Thanks, everybody.
Can everybody hear me okay? It's good. I'm not muted. My camera's on. Everything's good. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Turner Hassong. I'm the outgoing chair for the Early Career Working Group. And yeah, I just want to take a second to say that I've always really admired and deeply appreciated NAPB's commitment to students and early career researchers. I think it's evident by the number of talks we've had that are early career scientists that the organization has a really strong commitment to supporting those communities. And next, I just wanted to say that a big thank you to Nikayla Strauss and Chandler Levinson, who were the vice chair and secretary this year and helped coordinate a lot of our activities. And Nikayla, if you want to stand up, Nikayla will be our incoming chair. And we'll be hosting elections for vice chair and secretary at our meeting in September, first Wednesday of the month at noon CST. Just find one of us if you're interested, and we'll get you signed up. And self-nominations, welcome. And then I just wanted to quickly go through some of the activities we hosted this year. So we had 2 webinar panel discussions, one featuring the Land Institute on how plant breeding works at a nonprofit or NGO organization, and another featuring public-private partnerships, so featuring people from SeedQuest and also Cornell and also Corteva. And then our monthly meetings, our other big activity where we have a time for sort of an informal coffee chat. So we select different topics throughout the year, and it's just a space to connect with other early career researchers. A lot of us are going through really big transitions in our career, echoing some of John's points earlier. So it's a really nice space to learn from each other's experiences and kind of get some advice or share advice or things that have been helpful for you. And I think a lot of us have made really great connections through that sort of informal space to connect. I also wanted to mention that we get an extra benefit because Don Cummings attends a lot of our meetings and shares all of his sage wisdom, so it's a really great way to get his advice at all times, which is awesome. And then we also, some of our topics have included, echoing a lot of previous comments, interviewing, negotiating, hiring practices, DEI, especially for those establishing research programs, adapting to COVID, and really other important milestones. And lastly, we're restarting an event we hosted the previous year, which is called the Mentoring Circle. So this is a peer mentoring program. So basically we'll send out a survey and connect groups so that you can have a mentoring group, and again, meant to be a space to talk about all of these important milestones and development opportunities. Just wanted to add, we're really committed to working with the other groups at NAPB, especially in relation to a centralized communication platform. We think this would be really helpful, especially on the early career side. And lastly, just wanted to close with a call to action. So if you're interested in joining, please find one of us. We have a piece of paper with a sign-up sheet, but we'll make sure you get signed up. And would love to hear your voice, and I think it's a really great space to have an impact on NAPB. We have a lot of flexibility on what sorts of initiatives we can be involved in. So yeah, thanks for your time.
Hey everyone, my name is Lance Merrick, and I'm the chair of the Graduate Student Working Group, even though I'm no longer a grad student. The Graduate Student Working Group is a pretty unique working group because we actually have 12 elected members. This is because with graduate students constantly graduating, we don't have the ability to have someone in their position for 3 years, but it also allows us to have a lot of interaction and a large team that we can elect to. And so that team ranges from the normal chair, vice chair, and secretary all the way to a social media representative, a couple planning committee liaisons, some graduate student highlight coordinators, diversity award liaison, and our social outreach. So we have a great team, and I was really proud of our group this year because we actually accomplished quite a bit and especially increased our following. So every year we actually send out a graduate student survey that kind of guides our plan for the year. And you can actually look for that following the meeting, and please fill it out if you're a student, and that'll help guide us what kind of webinars we hold and things like that. So this coming year, Mala Ganager is actually going to be our chair, and because of that, we actually have all our other committee positions. So the vice chair, secretary, and all the advocacy and communications team members positions will be open. And so we actually have sent out that election email, and we'll be posting on our social media, and please look out for that. And that election self-nomination process will end at the end of the month, and then we'll start our actual elections. So our group accomplished quite a bit this year. We actually had 5 virtual webinars ranging from global plant breeding careers to working with a commercial plant breeding group on getting your first job, how to create your social media brand, all the way to Rex Bernardo's Yogi Bearisms, which was actually really cool. We actually hosted 3 different socials, and we actually communicate a lot and work a lot with African Association of Plant Breeders, and we actually have a liaison from the APBA that sits in on our meetings, and we held a social with them as well as helping put on the global career webinar. And we also had a great coffee hour with Don Cummings. He's always in every committee and super helpful, so I always appreciate it. We also put out 7 NAPB and also APBA student highlights throughout the year. We usually aim for around 1 or 2 highlights, and we generally pick from students that are very active in our webinars and socials and that are constantly showing up. And thanks to Ren and Souza, we actually increased our following on our social media and outreach quite a bit. And I think this made a huge impact from, I know at the beginning of COVID, our attendance was quite low in our webinars, but this year we actually, instead of having, maybe 10 to 15 students attend our webinars, we got up towards 75 to 100, where we actually had to worry about if we could actually hold them all in our webinar and our Zoom meetings. So it was actually a great problem to have, and we've had some great outreach through our webinars and through our social media. So I thank you, Rin, for that. But I think one of our biggest accomplishments this year was creating the independent working group with the George Washington Carvers, and through the help of a lot of other people, especially Michelle and Jamie, for helping us get that name changed, and for Curling Gao and her leadership and leading that committee and stepping up. So I think that was one of our best accomplishments of the year for sure. So looking forward to the next year, we're going to be doing a lot more of the same and focusing on our relationship with APBA and trying to get our outreach even further to different countries. And focusing on webinars. And so again, we'll be sending out that student survey to help build that outlook. So once again, our elections will be open, or our not self-nominations will be open until the end of the month, and then we'll have about a week for elections. So we're gonna actually hold our own little breakout group up on the top of the room if you wanna learn more about that as well. So thank you.
All right, so we're running out of time. I'm going to see how effectively I can communicate my message from the Communications Committee. My name is Allison Thompson. I'm the outgoing chair. Brian Gardunia is our incoming chair. He wasn't able to join us today. Eli Corona is here. He is our current secretary, going to be our vice chair. We are looking for a new secretary. Jody Scheffler is our 2 years past chair, and we thank you for her continued involvement. So it's been brought up a little bit about what the Communications Committee does by the other committees. We communicate amongst the committees as well as to the rest of the plant breeding group. And it's kind of also been brought up, we have not been as effective in that as we would like. So that has been one of our major goals this year. There's a lot of social media out there. The Communications Committee actually is not running those. We run LinkedIn. The rest of them are run by various other groups. So we were finding out who runs those, who do we talk to get content posted, how do we make sure that we are giving a cohesive message to all of the different social media outlets that we have access to so that we can spread our word in what everybody is doing with the different committees. So that's been one of the things that we've done. I think we've gotten a lot better, but we still have some room to grow there and make sure that we're providing that message consistently to all of our different social media groups. I will say with LinkedIn, I am particularly proud of that one. We started off with about 900 followers. We're up to almost 2,000 now. So just think about what that could do for our membership. If we've got 2,000 LinkedIn followers, how do we bring them into being members of NAPB? So that is something that I would like to see us focus on in the future for our committee. The other thing that we have done for communications is we've revamped the newsletter. A lot of you sent some great feedback about the change and the new content that we have provided with the newsletter. So that took a lot of coordinating with the different chairs, finding out what they wanted to tell the rest of our group, and making sure that we got that spread to everyone, and then also putting that on LinkedIn later on so that we can continue to share what we do with the rest of the world. I think that is the bulk of what we've done, staying on time, and I will turn it back over to Hannah.
Okay, in line with our agenda being completely upended, I'm going to now just finish off this section, then we'll go straight to the breakout groups, and then from there we'll go into coffee break. So thank you to everybody who's shared what's going on in their committees and working groups. Hopefully, for those of you who are not currently involved or haven't previously been involved in a committee or a working group, it gives you a bit of a sense of the activities, the opportunities involved in getting stuck in and helping with making this organisation what it is. There are a number of areas that we haven't gone into today because we've touched on them elsewhere in the programme. So Borlaug Scholars, if you're interested in that, contact Alan Van Dyne. George Washington Carver, if you're interested in that, contact Gerline Carr. Awards, that was discussed earlier in the agenda, that in the meeting. If you're interested in getting involved in that, it's Jim McPherson. And PBCC, if you're interested in getting involved with that, please contact Duke Powley. He's the incoming chair, I believe. On that note, thank you very much for everything that has been contributed, and thank you in advance for everything that is going to be contributed as we go into the next year. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you all a bit better and making great things happen. So on that note, we're going to wrap this session up. The breakouts, we're going to do early graduate students at the back, education over this side of the room, and advocacy over to this side of the room. And if you would like to move around between them, you are at liberty to do so. Thank you very much.